What is up, business owners, entrepreneurs, and probably my grandma? This is Business Vibe. Today's interview is with David Lukens, the owner of a dairy company that makes $3 million per year in revenue. He shares the story of how he built his business to multi-millions of dollars and how he has set the trajectory to 10x his business in 10 years.
Can you tell us a little bit about your background? And I believe you're second generation, correct?
Yeah, exactly. So my background is essentially working here for the majority of my life. So my parents started it in '99, and the honest part of the story is that my stepmom was a Y2K prepper. So she was worried about the world shutting down, and because of that, she got a couple goats, and she's always kind of been a homestead style lady. So she did goat milk soap and lotion made out of the goat milk, and then people started asking for fluid milk and cheese and stuff. And so we got licensed in, I think it was like 2001 to start actually a creamery, processing side of milk. So I was 12 or 13 when they got the goats. And so then basically fast forward through the years, slowly grew this little hobby thing into a business. My dad and stepmom are serial entrepreneurs to the point where they're kind of their own worst enemy. I mean, they'll just go and go and go, and but it's a blessing and a curse, but mostly a blessings. Bring it to modern day. We had the internal battles and struggles of letting go, and my dad always wanted me to take things over, but he had a really, really hard time not micromanaging and letting the reins go. So we finally got the deal done in 2020, right as COVID hit. And so I bought the farm, I bought the creamery. It all worked out good, so to speak. But, I was 33 or 4 at the time, married, no kids yet, but trying to have our first. And so then you go from low debt to almost $1 million in debt. There's some stress with that.
And can you describe tell us what kind of products do you sell?
Yeah, so our day-to-day, we still do goat products. It's about 10% of what we do. Just the goat milk market is a lot smaller. So we do goat milk, goat yogurt, a goat kefir. And then on our cow side of things, we do fluid milk, chocolate milk, yogurts of 3 flavors, kefir, 2 flavors, cultured buttermilk. And then we do a non-dairy product, which is a raspberry smoothie. And so we're starting to kind of get into some non-dairy processing and stuff. And then with that, we've got licensed to do some co-packing. So like we co-pack for a salsa company, and we're doing some co-packing of yogurt and milk for some other companies.
And how do you manage the day-to-day operations of that and keep your quality and sustainability?
Normally I run around with my head cut off, and ultimately we have a good team. So I basically started at the bottom, which is good, right? So I used to milk animals, and then I used to run the creamery. I did some deliveries, and then I used to haul a covered trailer to and from the plastic factory and haul in our own bottles. And then I started, doing the bookkeeping a little bit with my dad and order taking and all that. So every aspect of the business I know very intimately. And so as we've grown and scaled, it's basically, put good people in those places. And ultimately, when you're the owner and you're doing 17 things, you're doing 17 things not very good because you have to. And so at the end of the day, when you put good people in those places, usually they do better than you.
So I know you talked a little bit about the subscription service and how it kind of didn't plan out, it hasn't gone the way you wanted to. Do you mind if we tap on that a little bit?
Yeah, no problem at all.
So what inspired you to do the subscription business? Or I guess you kind of said that it was COVID, right?
Yeah, COVID was part of it. And then I had a part-time sales guy and delivery driver kind of wrapped up all in one. So he was the driving force behind it. We wanted to launch it and see. Part of the reason I don't think it worked is that he basically got himself fired and in the process of all this. And so the person that was trying to, plan and launch this with a little bit of guidance from me ultimately left. It shows a weakness. And the weakness in our business is an actual product launch program. And so I've got a new guy that we were just talking about that yesterday, where we need a product launch program, and the product doesn't necessarily have to be food, but it has to be, what is this product, whether it's knowledge or whether it's home delivery or whatever, it drives some sort of revenue, right? So that's one focus that I'm going to bring back in. And that's why I'm not going to kill the home delivery thing, because it's like cash out of pocket. I think our subscription for Barn to Door is the company that's the storefront. It's like $80 a month, right? So in the scheme of things, it's really small investment of keeping it alive. I'll see a couple sales a month right now. We were shooting for 10 a week, 1 delivery day, a week. And it's like, we're seeing way less than that. But again, if I can't just expect everything to turn into gold.
Wish, right?
Yeah. Yeah, business would be really easy if that's the case.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Whatever you think it's going to be, even if you think it's going to be long, it's going to be way longer. Take wow.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, the old adage, it's going to take twice as long and cost twice as much. There's a lot of truth.
Yeah, a lot of truth in those roots. Yeah. Do you mind just talking about your revenue a little bit?
Yeah, for sure. So we're growing fairly aggressively, especially this month. A lot of that is just natural growth, which is awesome. So let me just pull this last day of the month, which is awesome. So this July versus last July of 2023, we're up 27.3%. It'll probably be slightly more than that by the time all the sales are done today. So basically about 30% growth month over the same month last year. And it's basically just from maintaining our current customer group and massaging them to, either stock more products. We have seen some natural competition in the marketplace come and go, which has been good for us. At the end of the day, if you stay relatively steady, every single day people go out of business, and it gives you a little bit of a head start of the ones that are up and coming.
And do you mind maybe sharing like your best year so far, like the revenue, maybe the gross revenue that you guys have done?
Yeah, no problem. So last year was our best year. We did just over 2.6 million, and so we're on track this year to hit 3. I'm pretty confident in. We might break 3 comfortably. We'll see how it goes. And then obviously, like in my Reddit post, it profit all depends on what we're doing, right? There's truck breakdowns. We run 4 reefer trucks, so sometimes there's a $15,000 truck bill because we had to rebuild an engine, right? So that kind of whacked the profit here and there. But if I were to not aggressively grow and try to focus specifically on net profit, we'd probably be 10 to 15% net profit, so round number sake, 300,000 to 400,000 in profit this year if we weren't reinvesting in expansion and we weren't doing stuff like that.
Good for you guys. And where does your like revenue come from? So you kind of produce your products and then you ship them to distributors?
This is a prime example. Let's walk through. So I'll show you the setup here. So this property that we're on here was our original large goat farm. So we still maintain a few little goats. So let me flip this around here for you, see if I can do that. So we got a few little girls sitting out here. This is more petting zoo status nowadays. And so ultimately, I still maintain a really small grade A goat dairy license. So if we ever want to milk these girls and use that milk for processing, we can. But we require about 120 goats worth of milk at our current scale. So this is, like I said, this is just petting zoo. Most of our distribution is self-distribution. So we do about 80% of our own deliveries to and from the greater Seattle area. And so I've got 4 trucks, 2 of them, or actually 3 of them are in the yard. This one just came back. And so they're all non-CDL. So I can hire just anybody with a good driving record and a, driver's license. So essentially trucks go out full. They come back empty with empty milk crates. So we receive the milk crates through here. This is the loadout area. So he's picking and packing pallets, but we'll get there last. So this is where the milk bay is. It's a little bit noisy here. Sorry about that. But this is we receive all the raw milk in this bay. It has to be a covered receiving bay. We just got a tote of goat milk back. So that's what that is. So that gets pumped up and over into our raw area. And so our creamery is built in big horseshoes. We have raw receiving this side, dry store in the back, finished product on this side, and in the middle coolers. So we'll walk straight through. I'll show you. This is our grade A licensed goat tank. So this is literally made by me and my dad. It's an old milk tank from a dairy farm. And so we just put it on a trailer. We built our own cradles. We've hauled about 10 million pounds of milk with this setup. It's super easy, simple, mobile pump. It'll wash itself. The reason I wasn't available till 11 today, I just did the milk hauls myself. I kind of like getting out of the office. Monday, Wednesday, Fridays is what we were required to do. So the dairy farm can empty their tanks and they can wash their holding tanks. And then sometimes based off of our needs, it'll be, more loads than that. But that's the gist of it. And then I'm going to set you down. I got to put a hairnet on real quick. All right. So this is the raw side of the creamery. So essentially everything that we do goes through this room. And this is a vat pasteurizer right there. So that pasteurization is 145 degrees for 30 minutes. It's just like cooking a pizza. So we do the slowest and the lowest temperature to make sure that the milk is the closest to straight out of the animal, but it's also safe for everybody to consume. So everything's vat pasteurized, but what we don't do to milk is we do not homogenize the milk and we do not separate the milk. Homogenization is about 10,000 PSI. And the milk is pushed through. The fat globs are broken up so small that they will not rise to the surface of the milk. And in our research and some of the classes we've taken, is a big reason why people react to milk these days is that homogenization process. Separation, not as bad. You're basically spinning off the cream. You get your half and halves, your heavy whips that way. We don't own a cream separator at this point, so we just have built the business off of minimally processed milk. So pasteurization, this is the key thing for us. We've got recording thermometers, and it's time and temperature. So this is currently what the pasteurizer, the milk is, and then the airspace right here. And this is our legal record to show our state regulatory agencies that the milk is pasteurized within the required, time and temperature. So if we ever have a recall, they're gonna look at this as number one and say, did you do it right? And then we go down the supply chain after that. On this side, this is 2 raw milk holding tanks. They're refrigerated. So we usually use this one for cow milk. This one has been broken down, but I'm actually testing it right now to see if we can start using it for goat milk again. But it gives us a flexibility between, we can fill one, wash the other type of deal. So, so the back of our creamery here. So this is just basically bottle receiving. And so what we've learned, so here's an example. We do a cultured buttermilk. So there's a label there for you. We've learned through the years that getting pre-printed packaging is nice if you're a big, huge plant. If you have tons of space, we did a load of packaging, but then it's just like things don't sell at the same rate. You're sitting on a literal truckload of packaging. So we pivoted rather than reorder another truckload of packaging. We bought some labeling equipment. So this is a labeler, does all the deli style cups for yogurt because they're slightly tapered. And so here's a honey yogurt cup. And so anyway, long story short, we've just reinvested in flexibility. Let's see if this tells me. I think we've done like a few 100,000 cups on this machine. I don't know how to get to the total counter, but whatever. It's all good. Once the milk is done pasteurizing, it gets pumped through these sanitary stainless pipes. And so basically it's pumped through the wall and it ends up in this tank. So I'll show you right now, there's bottling. So there is finished milk in there. It's almost empty. So it gets pumped over here hot. And then we essentially have a food grade radiator. And so the milk pumps through one side and water pumps through the other side and the heat transfers. And so the current temperature of that milk right now, we got it down to 68 degrees. And so we're bottling it immediately and it's going to go under our walk-in cooler. So I'll show you that process. So this is a rotary filler. So it's gravity filled basically. So the bottles get pushed up against it and basically auto fills up to the top, puts a cap on. So it took us many, many years to get to this point. So we still have some archaic stuff, but basically Maria's loading, getting labeled, getting dated right there, and then just keeps on going. So this milk is the easiest to do because it's literally you cook it, you cool it, you bottle it. But what's really fun about cultured products like yogurt is we have to incubate it. And so this is a hot room. I've got my Bahamas poster in here. And so right now we're just over 90 degrees in here. And so what we got going on is all the probiotics for yogurt is setting up. So they ran a honey yogurt this morning, first thing. And so this is still milk viscosity right now, but the cultures are starting to set up. And so it takes about 16 hours for the probiotics to exponentially grow. They eat the lactose. It gets about half the thickness of most yogurts that you've eaten. And then once we roll it out tomorrow morning and we put it in our walk-in cooler and it cools down fully, it'll set up all the way. And then another one of our popular products is a cultured buttermilk. So it's something that most companies use buttermilk as a byproduct of making butter. But this is actually like the traditional way to make cultured buttermilk, where it's an actual culture like a yogurt. And so European countries and stuff still make it that way. But here in the US of A, we don't do it that way very often. So that's turned into a really good seller of ours. Alrighty, then kind of last stop here. I'll do 2 things. So we just finished an expansion, which is pretty cool. So they're working in this room. This room did not exist about 3 months ago. And so we've got another filler we're putting in. So we've got an 8 head that you just saw running. And then we got a 15 head that's getting set up and ready to get installed. And so that's kind of some of our future steps here. So he's getting these created and they're going to end up in here. So that's kind of loud room, but this is walk-in coolers. So we're 39 degrees, just like the yogurt racks you saw in the incubator. Those will roll into here tomorrow. We try not to handle things more than once. So it's already in a case in there. They've got ventilation, so the heat can get out of here. Legally, we've got about 72 hours from the time we produce yogurt till it has to be under 40 degrees. Usually takes us about 24 to 30 hours. Once it's under 40 degrees, we can sell it. So here's a goat yogurt case, for example. When we sell to a retailer, it's a full case product, so 6 in a case. It varies on what we're selling, of course, but we've essentially Lego bricked this place together. So initially, this cooler zone was where we started with. We had one zone of cooler, we added this zone, then we added this zone. So we'll drop pallets in here and we'll pack pallets. Then we added this zone, and then this is our most recent addition. So we added this zone, and now we're out of space in this building. So. And then kind of this roof line, this is a new addition that we did, like I spoke about. And so I'm just going to kind of pop back through this door. We went in the cooler over there. And so this is all brand new. It's really not even hardly in use yet. We just got our sink installed. And so we've got some yogurt strain tables to do a Greek style yogurt. We got the filler going in. So next for us is turning this addition into production space, another bottling tank, another filler, and then figuring out, what's the best utilization of it. The bottleneck is the cooler now. So we needed more space because prior, trying to do all the production in just this room is pretty dang tight, right? So the bottleneck prior was like, hey, we need more production space. Well, this actually was grant funded. We applied for a grant with our state agency. We were chosen for half the amount that we wanted, but it was enough to build this out completely debt-free. The only downside is it's taxable income, but I mean, I won't shake a stick at having a building addition done tax-free. That new to us bottler that we're rebuilding was debt-free, not tax-free. So the bottler was also debt-free. We bought that with grant funding. So there's some programs out there that are really helpful and advantageous if you check the right boxes. Go out the back door here. So essentially, we built this with the plans of we built half a slope. This will be an addition. We'll do another one here in the next year or two. And then this is just old, basically goat pasture out here.
This is a super, I'm sure, naive question. But so do you have to have it in the cooler? You can't just get it on your reefer truck? Would your reefer truck not get it to a temp low enough, fast enough?
Yeah, exactly right. So the reefer won't pull it down, and stores will not receive dairy products for basically CYA, cover their own ass, if they're above 45 degrees.
So they check the temp, and if it's not under that, we don't want it. So moving to like marketing and like the customer side of things, you said you were kind of a self-distribution. Are you distributing to just grocery stores then?
Yeah. Majority of our business is grocery stores. So in our area, let's see, the big names that you would know is like Whole Foods. We sell to all the Whole Foods here in Washington State. We've got it's Puget Consumer Co-op. They have like 16 stores. It's PCC is what they call it up here. That started in Seattle. It's the biggest chain of food co-ops in the U.S. And we sell to all those. They're actually our best customer. Very green, local, focused, natural ingredients, minimal processed food, and organic, essentially. So, and honestly, I should touch on organic. One of the staples of my dad and stepmom's goal was to basically farm organic style. We started it out before organic was a huge buzzword. And so as organic got more and more popular, it got more and more convoluted with the big companies. And so we've actually looked into doing organic dairy. We got inspected to handle organic milk. We run an organic chicken farm at this point. It's on a small scale. And so that's what the Misty Meadows is in my email. If you click on that, it's a little organic chicken farm that we run. But organic is, I don't know a nice way to put it. Half of it's BS and the other half of it is burdensome for administration. And so they're locking it down really bad in our state right now to the point where it's hurting a lot of companies, but it's because there's been a lot of fraud, right? So we grow a lot of apples here in Washington on the east side of the state. It's a different climate, apples, cherries, peaches type of a deal. Well, a lot of the stories go that there's truckloads of fruit that's, picked, and it leaves as conventional and it shows up to the next warehouse as organic, right? And so then you get the big price point and potentially a bunch of profit in the middle and this and that. Well, for me, it doesn't make any sense for me to have organic eggs from my farm show up as conventional eggs. Going reverse like that, there's no but the state is still requiring me to get a new license, pay $1,500 a month to maintain, or a year to maintain this license just to haul an organic product that's in a non-tamper evident container, i.e. our eggs. So it's like the burdensome side, the licenses, and not only that, you have to track all the eggs going in, all the eggs coming out, because they want to make sure you're not doing fraud. And I was like, I'm not going to do fraud, because I'm not going to be putting conventional eggs on the shelf that were already organic that left my farm. That doesn't make any sense, right? But they don't give two craps about that.
So what's it like getting into these chains, like these stores? Was that kind of like monumentally just challenging, or was that, what was the process like on that?
Our timing was, in my opinion, divine. We were in the start of the natural local food movement, like absolutely perfectly. So my dad would go down there with a sample of yogurt, and like the doors would fly open. And so I've seen the market get a lot harder to get into in the last few years. For us, it was just great timing. Now, that said, if you've got a good product, they'll welcome you in. I mean, but you have to have something. It's like a lot of these companies just try to reinvent each other, right? I mean, it's like Yoplait yogurt, cheap yogurt, right? Mm-hmm. If I'm going to go out and try to sell cheap yogurt, they're going to say, hey, sorry, the store shelves are probably full, right? But the only reason that we're getting new clients is, here and there, is because we're not like somebody else. We're doing a really high-end natural yogurt. It also has cream on top because we don't homogenize, right? And so in most cases, the products that we make are not like the other products on the shelf. Now, the downside of that is I don't like we touched on, I don't have the equipment to do a half and half or a sour cream, right? And so long term, we'll probably get some of that equipment, but then we've got a byproduct problem where if we separate milk, nobody really is drinking 1% milk anymore. But if we separate it down, what do we do? Sure, we'll make our heavy whip, and we'll make our half and half, and we'll make our sour cream. Well, what do you do now with 150 gallons of 1% milk?
And so you talked a lot about like expanding and how you're trying to like aggressively expand. How's that expansion going, and how do you see your business changing in the next 5 to 10 years?
I'm young and dumb enough. I'm aiming for some big stuff, to be honest. I mean, I'd like to, the kind of the first goal is 10x, so get to 30 million, and then just, possibly do more. We'll see. I see that this business model is good, but we're also missing some large opportunities by having limitations with equipment. There's big opportunities with some of these really big chains, but you gotta check all the boxes for them. You got to have super in-depth inspections, like I think they call it SQF. Yeah, SQF is like basically the highest level of food safety audits. And so if we get, SQF certified, we can start doing all sorts of kind of big boy stuff. The non-dairy product that we make, the Whatcom Red, it's a red raspberry smoothie. That has been really popular, and it's just in like 50 stores here in this area. So we're in talks. Oh, I should also preface this. We're in the capital of the raspberry world. Whatcom County is where I'm located. So we have the 3 biggest red raspberry farms in the entire world up here. And so right now, as we speak, there's berry pickers going up and down rows, and we've got a field that's neighbor to us, which is where we buy our raspberry puree from. And so with those guys and some interesting opportunities, we're talking with some buyers at Costco and stuff about if we have like 3 different berry flavored drinks, could we get into a few Costco's here in Washington, and then potentially, like we got potential to go. You can't do that overnight unless you have the infrastructure, or at least you got a relationship with a co-packer or something. So that's pretty much kind of part of the growth plans. That's kind of the last comment I was going to make.
So moving kind of into like your personal insights, what do you enjoy most about owning a business, and like kind of what attracted you to doing that instead of going on a different direction when you had that chance to purchase?
Yeah. So actually, that's a great question. And there's one kind of chapter I didn't touch on is I went away from the farm for 2 years, and that was right after our raw milk incident and recalls and stuff. It was like survival mode for my parents, and so I went and worked at a local church. I'm a religious person at the end of the day. My wife worked there for about 2 years, and through that took some of these like personality profile tests, Myers-Briggs, Enneagram, stuff like that. I was just straight wired for business ownership. I am the 30,000 foot visionary, big, hairy, audacious goal guy that half the time my team scoffs at. And I'm like, dude, you guys are looking at your feet and I'm looking down the road, and they're like, this won't work because of XYZ. And I was like, I get that, but this is where we're going, and like, take care of this the day to day for me, but we need to get here in the next 3 months. Well, normally that 3 months turns into 6 months or a year, right? But that's my thing. So at the end of the day, I love the visionary stuff. I love setting goals. I'm addicted to the highs and the lows of business. Half the time it is, not quite half the time, about a quarter of the time it's heartbreak and it's frustration. But man, like, I got an email yesterday from our biggest customer asking us if we want to start a private label program with them, and it potentially will be $500,000 a year in revenue. Right. So now I'm like, I've already done exactly what I just described. I already talked to one of my team leads yesterday. He's all excited about it, but then it caused ruffles in the creamery of like, how are we going to get there? We don't have the space, the cooler, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, okay, this is not overnight, guys, but this is a 3 to 6 months process. And we need to do some product testing to start with. We need to do some logistics of how we could make this special yogurt they want. And then we got to figure out the cold storage situation, right? So there's all those things where it's like, it's 6 months down the road at least, but I'm excited about it. It's something that and at the end of the day, that's the high, like $500,000 a year, man. Like,
yeah,
I want to pay my house off, but by the time I'm 40, can I do it? I'm not sure, but I'm sure it's heck gonna try.
That's so awesome. So a question I like to ask everybody I interview, because it's just so interesting to see kind of into their past. And I think you kind of hit on this already as you were growing up, and you've been doing this for a while. But what was your childhood like?
I'm terribly educated. I am homeschooled. I never graduated. I never got a GED. And I say terribly educated because it's tongue in cheek in the fact that I run a multi-million-dollar company by the time I'm 35. And so I am one of the people that say traditional education, I think, is great for the basic learning, but it also sets you back on, you start thinking there's only one right answer to the test that is life.
Yeah.
And so I have considered going back to college. Like, I've got a certificate above my desk here. I've done food safety, preventive control courses that was through our local college, and it was FDA inspired, blah, blah, blah. So I've done some of that stuff, but at the end of the day, man, I don't have a single degree. I kind of think that's good in a way, especially in the world of business.
So coming to the last two questions, what's your advice for people who might want to start their own business, but they kind of feel stuck? Like they know they want to start it, they have that fire, but they just don't know what the next step is.
I mean, kind of two things, to be honest with you. Have the discipline of saving money, and then just do it. Like, there's a book that I haven't even read, but it's Ready, Fire, Aim. And there's a whole lot of truth to that, where it's like you need to do something, because I would say 95% of the people are paralysis by analysis. And, the only way to really learn and actually like hands-on is just to try, right? So, don't be dumb about it. Do your research. Don't go borrow a ton of money. There's so many people that just think that, oh man, I'll go borrow a ton of money and get the degree, and then I have the degree and I owe a crap load of money. I'm going to borrow more money and start my business and be successful. Don't do that. That's dumb.
So as my last question, is there anything else you'd like to share?
So two things. Number one, it kind of relates back to the last question. Look for opportunities, just like the grant funding that I talked about. There's opportunities out there for small businesses, for farms, for all sorts of stuff that, you just got to do the research and see if you can find a program that do it for you. And so that's another great way to do it. Then you're not borrowing money. As for up and coming, look for us. We're going to grow. My goal is to grow a national brand. So I'm not sure how long it's going to take me to do that, but effectively, I think we're going to be starting up some satellite creameries throughout the country. That's kind of one of my big, hairy, audacious goals, is support small, local, natural farms and take this business model, and whether it's like a franchise style thing or it's just satellites to this business, I'm not entirely sure, but we're gonna keep going to build the network out and do some cool things, I think.
Well, I cannot wait to see you guys grow, because I think you're gonna get there.
Thank you. Appreciate that.